Brodes Media.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Real quick. Yes, I just got out of the shower, and I am definitely having shower sweats. Number 2, I had some audio issues with my Bleacher Report stream. My headset wasn't working for some reason, so the Bleacher Report tech people told me just to use my Mac inbuilt microphone. So the audio is going to sound a little different than normal. Just bear with me. It's a one-time thing, so I'm sorry about that. And lastly here, before we continue into the program, we've got a new sponsor here at Brodes Media, and that's Chris Gates Fitness and his online fitness training camp. Chris is an online fitness coach, and he's a massive football fan and spent his summers as a kid at Eagles training camp going to games at the Vet, and he's created a fitness community designed specifically for football fans just like you and me. If you're ready to evaluate your health and fitness goals and do it with a group of like-minded people looking to support and encourage each other, you have to check this out. There's seriously so much packed into training camp that I joined and was blown away by everything you get as a member. There's customized monthly workout programs that will help you build muscle, burn fat, and feel more athletic. And there's access to live Q&As with Chris, exclusive community support, and there will be people out there that will help hold you accountable and help you work towards your goals. Training camp members also get to compete in fitness challenges each month, as well as sports challenges like football pick'ems in the fall, where Chris gives out free prizes. I'm talking home gym equipment, supplements, free one-on-one coaching calls, and more. And if you join this week and use code BRODES, you will get 80% off your first month. That's only $10. That's incredible. Don't miss out. Visit chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp. Click the link in the description and start your journey today. Thank you all so much and enjoy the show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Bleacher Report Live. And yes, we are finally here. We finally made it. Eagles training camp is upon us. And it's time to move past the 2023 season, which is extremely difficult for me to do. Last year broke me down in so many different ways that I will be 97. God bless me if I make it that far. But I will be 97 telling my grandkids about how much of a crap show it was the year Nick Sirianni followed up a Super Bowl appearance. And then I'll even express how crazier it got right before the 24 season with OTAs and Jalen Hurts umming and ahhing his way through the most simple questions. Jalen, what's it like working with Nick Sirianni in this new role? He's trying to be intentional with what he says. Excuse me? That's your response? Okay. Which then creates a crazy amount of controversy throughout the entire Delaware Valley. And rightfully so. So now, let's go to Wednesday. Wednesday is the first time we get to hear both of them talk. And it was highly anticipated. And highly anticipated for a reason. And I got to admit, I was thrilled with the way they handled it. To be very clear, all I can do is base it off of the right now. When I watch them take the field in September, when I see them in Brazil, when I watch 7 games under their belt and I get more information on who they're going to be, and when they have to face adversity, and when things go wrong and right on the football field, we'll have so much more knowledge on what the 24 Philadelphia Eagles are going to look like. But as for right now, all I can go off of is their words. And what it showed me was unity. And I'll even sprinkle Howie Roseman in the mix too, because he was holding Nick Sirianni's hand the whole way through the press conference, so he doesn't stick his foot in his mouth again, probably. Even though Jalen caused more of the problems than anything else, and that's probably why he had a little more juice in his step following Nick Sirianni on Wednesday. He cut reporters off. Let me get to the bottom of this. Let's cut to the chase. I got trust in the owner. I got trust in the GM. I'm excited to go to work with Nick Sirianni. we're in a good spot. And with Nick, he said something along the lines of, I can only base this off of our interactions each day. The way me and Jalen Hurts feel when we're together and we're talking ball and we're trying to figure this thing out. We're good. We are good. We're in a good spot. Whether it's lip service or not, this is what I was trying to get out of Wednesday's presser. Does it sound genuine? Does it feel real? What's the body language? What's the tone like? How do their voice sound when they speak and tell us this stuff? Do they look uncomfortable? Does it look awkward? And yes, I am nitpicking words that heavily. Because after the spring mess, and the spring mess being Jalen Hurts' words in OTAs, this needed to be done. And I'll give them credit here. They did a damn good job. They answered the bell. I'm proud of them. I felt togetherness. They're on the same page, knowing what needs to be said. Once again, is it lip service? Is it putting lipstick on a pig? I don't know. Time will tell. But the alternative was we had something so awkward and so bad and so tragic that for the next 48 hours, we wonder why Vic didn't give as much love to Jalen as we wanted, or why Jalen somewhat threw shade at the head coach again, where their relationship is truly fractured in a way where there's no recovery. It sounds to me like there is an opportunity for recovery, whether they learned from last year and they know they got to do things differently this time around, whether just the comfortability factor of not having Nick Sirianni be the most explosive offensive mind in the franchise, because whenever he has all the power and whenever he has the most power offensively, Nick Sirianni, that is, they stink. Whenever he hands it off to somebody else, Shane Steichen, or in this regard, Kellen Moore swoops in and it's his show, well, they seem to do well. So it seems they can move forward here, which brings us to our Bleacher Report poll of the show. Do you feel better now that Jalen and Nick address the media? You have three options. Yes, no, and never had a concern. My answer is yes. Yes, I feel better. I liked it. I liked it. Now we'll move on. It's that simple, see? If you just give us what we want, 5 minutes, bada bing, bada boom, we're on to the next topic. If you start to spew all sorts of garbage and you start to throw all sorts of shade at your head coach for 2 months, we try to get to the bottom of it. When you do what you're supposed to do, here's 5 minutes, let's roll on. Now let's get to some juiciness on the field. Vic Fangio, he had interesting words on Tuesday in regards to Bryce Huff. Something that I didn't necessarily love, but he's just being real and honest. And it's more, I don't love that this might be true, more than it is I don't like what he said. Because it reflects back to a decision made by Howie Roseman to allow Hassan Reddick to go elsewhere and not keep him here and pay him, and to bring in Bryce Huff instead. We all know Bryce Huff played a specific role with the Jets, and he's really good at it. He's going to have to be something different here, though. He's going to need to do more and to be on the field more and to still have a good success rate playing more snaps. And as we've seen with Jordan Davis, with Jalen Carter, with Josh Sweat, with a lot of these cats, the more you play, sometimes the less productive you get as the year goes on, especially in a season. Not that I want to break down the schedule too much right now, but in a year where you have the bye week so early in the year, you don't get that free pass of maybe a middle of the season, let me hit the recharge, let me get a reset. It's you have the bye week super early, and then here you go. Here's a big wave of games, and you get no time off to have a week to regroup. And I do think that will make a difference. Because players like Davis, like Josh Sweat, like a lot of these guys, they need it. But here's what he said on Bryce Huff. He has the talent. Does it look like he can do it today? No. But I do think eventually he will. I heard, but I do think eventually he will. I saw some quotes out there where he said, but I do think potentially he will. That does change it a little bit, but I'll go with what I heard. Once again, I'll repeat. He has talent. Does it look like he can do it today? No. But I do think he eventually will. You gave Bryce Huff a lot of money, dude. What is eventually? Is eventually years down the road? Or is it eventually 3 weeks into the season? Because if it's 3 weeks into the season, fine. I can live with it. If we're talking, hey, you brought him in here and we'll see what he eventually grows into one day, whether it's him being more effective, getting more snaps, whether it's him and being more effective, getting more snaps, meaning still being able to get to the quarterback and create all sorts of chaos. There's also the element of stopping the run. So teams can't run down your throat. And if Jordan Davis does what he's supposed to do and eat up a lot of space in the middle, and there's no Fletcher Cox this year to rely on. And as much as some fans want to act as if Fletcher Cox didn't have that much left in the tank anymore, he was still very effective for what he did. He was your best interior defensive tackle last year, and not just because other guys stunk or hit a wall like Jalen Carter did, but he was still somewhat effective. He just set the bar super high where he was the second best defensive tackle in all of football outside of Aaron Donald at one particular stage in his career. But this Bryce Huff thing's fascinating. And don't try and tell me for 1 second the Eagles did the right thing allowing Hassan Reddick to go because of what we're watching go down in New York. Because in my hypothetical, you pay Hassan to go get your 15 sacks, to go get your 14 sacks, to hit the quarterback. One of my biggest fears is pass rush, especially with the young secondary. Even though Cooper DeJean is hurt, and Quinyon Mitchell is not even the first one getting snaps outside of Darius Slay. So maybe I'm wrong to even state that. Because so far, it's been Isaiah Rodgers getting the nod opposite of Slay. And then when Slay wasn't out there, it was Isaiah Rodgers and Ringo on Wednesday. Now, Isaiah Rodgers is coming off a season where he wasn't playing due to gambling issues. So I wouldn't call that youth, but I'd call that maybe rust. But teams can sit in the pocket and pick you apart. Now, Philly fan in the chat here brings up exactly where I was just about to go, and that's Nolan Smith. Now, I recently heard Darius Slay speak on Chris Long's podcast, and he was talking about how different it was seeing him enter this season compared to years past. Looks different, pesty. He's one of those guys that his motor goes 24/7. He hits his own teammates in practice. He never stops. He doesn't stop until the whistle is blown, and even then so he might still drive you a little bit past the whistle because he's playing with that edge. And that's all great. But the last I saw him, he was trying to trip people in the backfield with his leg instead of taking them to the ground and actually catching up and making the tackle. Do I think that there's something more in him than what we saw last season? For sure. And we're going to have to see it if this team's going to get competent pass rushing from their guys. But I'm not ready to label any sort of breakouts up. I wasn't left with enough satisfaction from Nolan Smith to have a high level of excitement until proven otherwise. Do I think it's in there? I do. I do. Even through the undersized tag to his name and what he's labeled, I do. I still think that there's something more than what we saw last season. But getting back to my main point here, getting sidetracked with some of the other pass rushers, the Vic Fangio thing on Bryce Huff is a little concerning with me. Maybe it's a tactic. Maybe it's an old school way of trying to motivate players. Same with Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell's a first-round draft pick, and he's not even lining up with the first team. Nakobe Dean, not lining up with the first team. Devin White, and they love this Zach Bond kid to death. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. got some run with the first team on Thursday. The issue is he went down with an injury. Then he returned, and then he went down with an injury again. And then I believe he was on the cart heading into the NovaCare complex. And then the latest I saw was he got off the cart once they went inside. So we'll wait for an update on that. But maybe it's a tactic to try to inspire some of these kids to play with some motivation. I'm just spitballing. Another thing that Vic Fangio brought up, though, is he's got his secret sauce. He's got a set of analytics that nobody knows of. So all these disciples that are trying to run the Vic Fangio tree, they don't have all the information. And maybe that's the separator. But the funny part is this dude doesn't have analytics. He watches them. He doesn't have special numbers. There's no way Vic Fangio has his feet up, right? Here's Vic Fangio. Here's my phone. He's got his feet up in his office, plugging stuff into his damn calculator, saying beep, bop, bop, boop, boop, bop, bop. Get the hell out of here. Oh, this player's going to be good because of these numbers. Get out of here. He watches with his eyeballs. Your own set of analytics. Now you trust your mind. You know what he's doing? And I'll give him credit. Smart man. He knows this new wave of front office members and GMs and analytical departments. Love that name. They love that word. They love that phrase. The A word, if you will. Analytics. So I'll give you analytics. My analytics are my damn pupils. And I am excited to see what he can do as the staple of the Vic Fangio defense. For years, we got the guy that is trying to duplicate and run Vic Fangio's scheme. Now we got Vic Fangio. Do I expect big things? With the right expectations based off the personnel. I don't expect a top 10 defense. I think he can create a solid defense. Maybe a 12th overall, 13th overall, 14th overall. I don't know. In that range. And if your offense is top 3, if not top 2, based off of points per game, and they're a juggernaut, can you survive with a 12th best defense in the league? And I think it's possible. I'm just throwing out numbers, but that sort of philosophy, which is your offense carries you, your defense holds the fort down. And then maybe you can get guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson to pick the ball off, grab some interceptions, and play with some energy. And then that can set your offense up to really succeed. Here's some other notes. Cooper DeJean sidelined for 3 weeks. That stinks. That stinks. When you're very early into your NFL career and it's your first chance, mental reps only go so far. You can talk about sitting on the sidelines and watching from a distance, but it's not the same as being in the trenches and getting the active snap-by-snap test and really learning as you go along with real experience on the fly. Will he be fine by the time he gets back after 3 weeks and we get an update on where he's at, and then, we get 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season and he gets some playing time? Yeah, he'll be fine. But it just sucks for the right now. What else in there? Oh, the Bradbury thing. So everybody and their mother seems to have this take. And look, I have no inside information. I'm not talking to anybody to feel differently than anybody else. And I don't know, I just keep hearing this opinion that there's no way in hell Bradbury's here. And while I do think the idea it was at one point, and still is, to try and find a way to get him out of here, I don't know if it's necessarily a no-brainer that it's like automatic he's gone. I keep hearing there's no way. Well, maybe there is a way. I don't know. Maybe there's a way that he is a safety here. And why I bring that up is, think of the safeties. Sidney Brown's dealing with an injury, and he's trying to recover. It's a pretty big injury. Reed Blankenship was banged up at the end of the year. Cooper DeJean is already injured. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, go look at how many games he played in Detroit. And he was hurt with the Eagles prior to going to Detroit. What do you have there? That doesn't mean James Bradbury will be a phenomenal option. Does it mean he can play the position? I don't know. But would I be shocked And Avonte Maddox, by the way. Is he in the nickel? Is he in the slot? Or is he a safety? Well, he's always injured. See my issue here? So while I do think what they want to do and what they prefer is to find a trade target and to get James Bradberry out of here, that is their first thought with Bradberry. With the way that he's getting second-team snaps now, is it possible, if they can't move off of him, that they feel the veteran presence, because he is a pro's pro. Say what you will about how much he was burnt last year, and I don't think he's as much of a stiff as we saw last year, especially now with some motivation to prove that he's not as terrible as we saw getting picked apart by Drew Lock and everybody else on a snap-by-snap basis. But there were other variables on why that was the case. I mean, the whole entire defense was dysfunctional. Hell, the entire locker room and organization was dysfunctional. He's probably not as good as he was in 22, and he wasn't as bad as he was in 23. But the way he stood in front of his locker every day and handled it like a pro, maybe they value that with Kelsey being gone, and they handle that with Fletcher Cox being gone. And if they need to use him in a pinch because there's a lot of injuries in their secondary, it's not a bad, respected pro who's played a lot of football to step in there compared to, like think about the Justin Evans and guys like that. I'm just saying names, but, you pick guys up off the street. I mean, would James Bradberry be a better option than that? Look, I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating, but this narrative that there's a 0% chance he's here, I'm just saying maybe it's 5. Okay, maybe it's 10. And maybe that's the role they look at him that's the role. Because let's be honest, if he's playing second team safety in camp, that's not making the phone buzz. There's no trade bait that happens when that's the case. So they're not putting him at second-team safety in camp to try and get the phones to buzz. If anything, he'd be starting at that point. Or he'd be opposite of Slay or something like that to try and trick the competition to making the call. Unless other teams think that it's a viable option for him to start at safety for them. But I don't know if that second-team tag would move the needle for him to that degree. But anyway, that's sort of my thoughts. Some other things, Mekhi Becton's out there blowing chunks day one, multiple different times, and then went back out afterwards. Tyler Steen seems to be at right guard, and that being the move for now, unless he loses the job. But essentially, that's what we've gotten here. And the biggest thing of them all, and I'll leave you on this note, seems like the offense is doing a tremendous job compared to what we saw in the spring. Like, there were a lot of miscues, a lot of issues, a lot of interceptions or turnovers and sloppiness. Right now, through the first 2 days of camp, seems like Jalen Hurts is doing a tremendous job, and he's hitting Dallas Goedert on Wednesday with the best pass of the day. Then on Thursday, he's hitting A.J. Brown with the beauty of his own. So it just seems like it's going better in training camp compared to what was happening in OTAs. And there's a lot to learn here. It's another offense for Jalen. It's a different coordinator, a different play caller. You're working with pre-snap movement. Dallas Goedert's already on the record saying, holy hell, and I'm paraphrasing, but holy hell, we're moving a lot pre-snap. Good, but that's a totally different element. And then we've recently heard from Jalen about what Jason Kelsey's role was with the knowledge and seeing things pre-snap and making certain calls at the line of scrimmage. Now that's no longer here. So that's more information for him and the offense in totality that was different than previous seasons when he was taking snaps from an all-timer. So that's also something new. It's going to take a little while to iron out the kinks, but for the first few days to look this well, the alternative is it looks bad. So it doesn't automatically relate to domination day one. And I mean day one meaning the regular season. But the alternative is it's a disaster. Should I have it look well, I'll take that. Jordan Davis says, this is a tweet from John Clark a minute ago. Jordan Davis says he's coming in training camp in better shape than minicamp. He says Vic Fangio told him he wants to put more on his plate and more reps. Jordan says he thinks Vic would like to have him out there for all 10 plays of a drive, but he jokes Nick Sirianni may not want that and maybe wants more of a rotation. Uh-oh. Is he joking? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. This isn't Nick Sirianni trying to show his power, right? Then I'm still the head coach here. Uh-oh. I can't do that. After what I preached in the beginning of the show, I can't do that, right? Huh? Yeah, I won't. I won't. All right, with that, we're going to shut it down here. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with me. I apologize for some of the technical difficulties in the beginning, but it looks like we ironed that stuff out. Thank you guys all so much. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you all on the next one.